Avantizo. I've been teaching for the last 3 years in eminent institutes and colleges for ACCA, and I've been teaching APM with VG Institute for the last 1 year now. This second year continued, right? I have a rank in APM. I've been worldwide 10th and India second. Okay. Today, I'm going to brief you about the major changes which have happened in optional papers at the professional level, right? Now, I know that many of you would be wondering that you may be appearing for the knowledge level or the skill level, and you may be wondering that why are you required to attend a session? So these changes are going to be applicable from September 22, which is the immediately coming attempt, right? So therefore, in the near future, all of you would also be a part of these changes and would need to get acquainted them. So therefore, we have organized a session for everybody in order to understand what all are the changes, right? So let's get into it right away. We have a small PPT made just to sum up the content, and I'll be taking you to the ACCA website to show in detail, right? So welcome. First is what exactly are the changes, okay? So we've been given a specimen by ACCA to brief us where exactly we're going to face the changes, right? As I told you, from September 22, which is the immediate attempt, we are going to face strategic papers, only optional papers ka changes. So you do not have changes in SBR and SPL. These changes will be applicable to APM, AAA, AFM, and ATX. So do all 4 optional papers have the changes immediately? Let's see, okay? All the strategic professional option papers will adopt the same structure of 1 section of 50 marks and 2 sections of 25 marks. So the broader questions do not have any change, right? Now, earlier we used to have 90 marks of technical and 10 marks of professional. Now it has been changed to 80 technical marks and 20 professional marks, right? So this is a big change. What used to happen in strategic papers is that there used to be a lot of time taken to write the paper, and often students used to complain about the time management. So this is a welcome change made by ACCA that the content that is written is of 80 marks and 20 marks will be given on the skill marks. Okay, so I'm going to explain in detail how these marks are going to be allocated, right? So the professional skill marks will be split within 10 professional marks. Okay, given section A, 5 with 10 professional marks available in section A and 5 in each of section B, right? So the first question is going to be 40 technical marks, 10 skill marks. The other 2 questions are going to be 20 technical marks and 5 skill marks, okay? Now, importantly, why is this decision made? Now, as you know, with ACCA, we have a case study based paper for the option papers. With case study, we're going to train students to understand how real life situations are and to train them to tackle the corporate world scenarios instead of just bookish knowledge, right? This is a big positive step taken by ACCA in that regard. Okay, so a right blend of technical and professional marks with an ethical mindset. So we are going to try to bring in a technical mastery along with special skills required for FM, audit, performance management, and taxation. So as I briefed you, this is a step closer to how your real life decision making and scenarios would play out. Okay. Now, very importantly, are these changes all applicable to all papers immediately? So as you can see, AAA, AFM, and APM will be from September 22, which is the immediate attempt that you all are going to give, right? Only for the optional papers, which are these 3. For ATX, it's going to be applicable from June 23 for UK as well as all the variants. So for ATX, it's not going to be applicable immediately. ATX is going to continue the same pattern as we did in the last attempt. We're going to make the changes, same changes, but we're going to incorporate them in June 23, right? Okay. Now, what exactly are the professional marks and how are they going to be evaluated? So now we have 4 skills that the examiner is going to look for in your answers, right? The first is communication. So let's see what communication is. First, inform, persuade, clarify, and simplify. Okay. They have to express themselves clearly, convincingly, through appropriate medium, and be sensitive towards the recipient, that is the audience. Respond in a professional manner to the instructions. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is AAA, ATX, AF, and APM are the 4 papers who are going to have these changes. I'm going to take the specimen of one paper and explain you how the changes are going to map out. You can ask your respective teacher to elaborate on the specific changes about your particular subject, right? So let's take the example of APM. So all the students that we have here, APM is Advanced Performance Management, which is costing based related to the performance, internal operations of the company, right? So what does communication mean? Whatever is your opinion, put clearly. If you've been given advantages, disadvantages of a particular model, let's say value for money or benchmarking, then you have to give your opinion. You have to convince them properly why you are for a particular opinion. Let's say you don't agree with the report, or you think that the information is incomplete. Pursue it clearly why you think so. Clarify and simplify. Put your points in clear, proper, and understandable terms. If you make a mess out of it, just because you write lengthy answers, if they don't make any sense, the examiner is not going to give you marks. So give simple and clear answers. That is a part of communication, right? What is skepticism? Explore, challenge, and question, right? In summary, they have to explore the views presented to them, identify if all the information is available and whether there is any underlying bias. So as I told you, you've been given a model, let's say Potter's model or non-financial information model. You have to check what are the things which are lacking in this, or they have given you a just-in-time system that the company follows. You have to evaluate what is missing in the system. This is skepticism, right? If let's say financial reports have been given to you, you have to be skeptic if there is any manipulation of data, if data has been incorrectly stated or window dressing is done. This all comes in skepticism. Challenge and analyze and assess, right? Then the next part is, evaluation. Analysis and evaluation is where you have to appraise, consider, investigate, and apply. So in this, you have to thoroughly investigate and research information from a variety of sources and logically process it to appear to a appropriate conclusion, right? So carefully assess situations, proposals, arguments in a balanced manner. Now, it's very important that first of all, let's say whatever information is given to you, whatever data is given to you, you have to, or let's say you know a model, let's say the BCG matrix or the just-in-time or the balance scorecard, you have to apply it in the scenario, right? You have to carefully consider how it will fit in the scenario, lean management, okay? And then you have to give a conclusion of whether this is right or not. You have been asked to apply budget, so you have to give a conclusion. How will this budget fit into the company? Very importantly, do not give a bias or your personal feelings. It should be completely professional with an ethical understanding. Do not put personal criticisms against the CFO or the CEO. It should be ethically proper to write an answer in a professional manner, right? The last part is commercial acumen. In commercial acumen, you have to recognize the key issues, use judgment, and show insight. To the wider business environment, external factors affecting the business, and sound judgment to exploit opportunities. Now, I often tell my students in APM that the only very important thing that is going to give you marks is not your theory mugging up, but how well you apply to the scenario given, right? As we know, a business has many aspects changing continuously in the internal environment, external environment. So how well you understand the company in the scenario and then apply your answer to the company will fetch you marks. And this is what we're going to see in commercial acumen, right? So these 4 skills are going to be tested for your paper, okay? Now, the important question is, are all of these given to the one answer? Are they given to any individual answers? How do we find out? Okay, so the professional marks in the strategic option exam will be attached to the overall question, not to individual requirements. So as you know, in your 50 marker question, let's have a 50 marker question right away. So here we have a 50 marker question, right? As you can see, now the marks are 16, 14, and 10. So you have technical marks of 40. Now, these skepticism marks are not given to any one particular question. They are not given to CSF 3 marks, value for money 3 marks. ऐसा नहीं है. Overall, how you write the answer is what you're going to get marks to. So therefore, if you follow the professional skills in all 4 questions, then maybe you will get a 7 on 10 or an 8 on 10. It is not given to specific questions. Okay, that is the first important thing. Okay, next thing. All 4 professional skills will be examined in section A. Okay, so in section A, we have communication, we have skepticism, we have analysis, and we have commercial acumen. All of them are analyzed and you are being tested for all 4 skills in section A. Now, what about section B? In section B, you will have a combination of analysis, skepticism, commercial acumen. Okay, this combination will be dependent on the split, okay, on the marks that have been asked. Okay, so what does it mean? Now, all professional skill marks may not be present in a question. Let's say you have a question, you have a balance sheet report given and you have to analyze it. So clearly it is about skepticism, analysis and evaluation. So depending upon the question, you have to make a judgment of what professional marks and professional skills are given importance here. All 4 skills are not going to be asked in a 25-marker question. Let's say there is a 25-marker question of write a report to the CEO, explain the external factors, let's say SWOT analysis. Now, how do we do? Commercial acumen. We have communication. So here you have to understand which skills are being used. So now, 2 things. First of all, when you discuss answers in your class, make sure that your professor discusses this with the 25-marker questions, that which skills are applied in which question, right? So from the coming questions, please make sure that all professors make a note of this. Now, your question might be that, is this included in your textbooks? Yes. If you can see, your BPP and Kaplan study text already has these skills noted. So let's say you have an answer, BPP ke end mein likha hoga ki, okay, this we have applied communication and analysis here. This will be already included. Make sure that your professor also includes you while discussing the answers in the process, right? Okay, so that is an initial introduction about how we are going to have the professional marks, okay, and which question is going to have how many marks. Now, what exactly is the meaning of these communication skepticism words? I have given you a brief introduction, but we have ACCA experts who have exactly told you that what this means. Okay, just give me a second. We log into our tutor login and I'll show you clips about what exactly is the meaning. Okay, don't worry, these are just 2 or 3 minutes clips, but they'll help you to clearly understand what skills are there and how they are being assessed. Okay, just a second. Are we able to see the screen? Okay, if there is any problem, please contact the team. Okay, so this is a clip about communication.
Management accountants need to be able to consider a wide range of issues from operational right through to strategic matters.
Just a second.
They are a strategic partner within an organisation, offering advice, recommendations, as well as developing and implementing frameworks and policies and adding value. A fundamental skill within this role is the ability to communicate key issues in a clear and concise manner. For management accountants, communication in the workplace is about being able to engage with various stakeholders. This could include senior.
So we have a model in APM where the concept is that different stakeholders have different needs and expectations from the company. And the company cannot fulfill all of them because they sometimes clash with each other. So therefore, you have to successfully communicate and persuade everybody so that it doesn't create problems and conflicts for the company. right?
Senior management, someone who works for you, a client, a supplier, or even a close teammate. Communication will be examined in Section A of the APM exam, where you will be asked to provide a report to the senior management of an organisation, typically the board of directors or the CEO, to address a number of issues. Your report format will need to include all of the necessary structural elements such as report headings, introduction, and headings to break up the subject matter. It should also be written in a tone and language appropriate to your audience. In APM, you should quickly establish a good understanding of the issues that your audience regards as important and provide a response which is clear and tailored to their requirements. For example, you may be told that the board doesn't understand Kaizen costing and so will require an explanation, which means you will need to explain the technique.
So just give me a second.
To them in the report. Conversely, you may be told.
Just give me a minute. Hello. Welcome back. Sorry for the disturbance. Let me resume your communication video.
Management accountants need to be able to consider a wide range of issues from operational right through to strategic matters. They are a strategic partner within an organisation, offering advice, recommendations, as well as developing and implementing frameworks and policies and adding value. A fundamental skill within this role is the ability to communicate key issues in a clear and concise manner. For management accountants, communication in the workplace is about being able to engage with various stakeholders. This could include senior management, someone who works for you, a client, a supplier, or even a close teammate. Communication will be examined in Section A of the APM exam, where you will be asked to provide a report to the senior management of an organisation, typically the board of directors or the CEO, to address a number of issues. Your report will include all of the necessary structural elements such as report headings, introduction, and headings to break a subject matter audience. In APM, you should quickly establish a good understanding of the issues that your audience regards as important and provide a response which is clear and tailored to their requirements. For example, you may be told that the board doesn't understand Kaizen costing and so will require an explanation, which means you will need to explain the technique to them in the report. Conversely, you may be told that the board know the principles of Kaizen costing, but want to understand the implications of introducing it for the organisation. In this instance, your response should focus on the implications and not on giving a detailed description of something they already know about. It is vital that you don't just state everything you know on a particular topic. Instead, ensure that you are responding to the specifics of what has been requested, and do so in a way that is logical, structured, and relevant to the question scenario. If calculations are required, they should be performed in the spreadsheet tool rather than simply typing in figures prepared on your calculator, and your report should refer to them. Technical marks often can't be awarded when calculations are just typed in and no workings can be seen, as there's no way to determine how the calculation has been arrived at. As a final point, if the user of the report gives you a specific set of instructions, for example, asks for a set number of points or indeed not to cover a particular aspect, then pay attention. A professional response communicates only what has been asked for. Anything else may just confuse the user and is not considered effective communication. Watch the rest of the videos in this series and use the ACCA practice platform.
So in short, first of all, what does communication entail? So you might have been well versed or have appeared in SPL, right? So making a report, addressing to the proper directors, making a proper conclusion, a body, making sure that your report has a structure to the intended user. If you're writing to the CEO or CFO, obviously you're not going to write nitty-gritties. You're going to give a detailed and highly useful, relevant information only. As mentioned, if they don't know a particular topic, then elaborate. But if they want analysis of a particular section only, do not put in everything you write, but just write relevant answer. Make sure that you write in terms which are very clear and understandable. If a particular section has not been asked you, right, for example, do not elaborate on the benefits. Make sure that you stay clear out of it and do not explain them, right? And last point, make sure that your detailed analysis, as she said, calculations are properly done, workings are made, and what is asked, make sure that your answer is relevant, to the point, and clearly explained. Okay. Now, one more thing that she has mentioned here, which is very important for us, is that communication is only in part A. So part B only has commercial acumen, skepticism, and evaluation. Communication is not a part of the 25 marker questions, right? Let's head on to skepticism video.
Skepticism in management accounting is looking for reasons. Skepticism in management accounting is looking for reasons beyond what is immediately obvious to explain, support, or counter management views and opinions on performance management techniques, models, methods, and systems. In the APM exam, directors and managers may make assertions with regard to proposals for the organisation, which you should not take at face value. Skepticism requires you to either look for corroborating evidence in the question scenario to support their views, or conversely, identify information which is missing in order to challenge the position
So first
stated.
of all, you need to explain what is already stated and try to analyze it, or look out for points which are missing and points which can be added. So many a times in papers we're given incomplete reports, missing reports, or unreliable reports. So this is where skepticism comes in. Whereas an expert, you have to give your inputs as to what can be improved in the report, right?
If data is missing or is needed to complete any evaluation, you need to comment on this too, showing that you are well aware that decisions cannot be taken or
So
conclusions
this is
challenged
basically a
without
bridge
the
between the
missing
top
elements.
management taking the
When
ultimate decision and the report which is existing. And the bridge is you and your skeptic analysis, right?
Challenging assertions, skepticism can also be demonstrated by probing further into the motives for those assertions being held. For instance, why might the manager of a division want to change the method of transfer pricing for a product they are buying from another division? This may be to do with the fact that the manager believes they are disadvantaged by the existing transfer pricing policy. If there is numerical data provided, this belief could be assessed by calculating their performance based on a proposed new transfer price and drawing a comparison. However, the perspectives of the buying division and the organisation as a whole cannot be ignored and should be considered. Whether supporting or rejecting management views, you should always provide a justification for your opinion. When asked about techniques, methods, models or systems, you may be required to evaluate if they will perform the functions suggested by the management in the question scenario. For example, the organisation may want to change the way it sets the budgets for its divisions from incremental to activity-based budgeting, and you are expected to evaluate that change. Showing skepticism means that you don't just accept that proposal, but work out how it will impact the division. You should examine the extent
here that, let's say you've been asked whether it is a wise decision to change from incremental to ABB, right? Now, the new method proposed is, let's say, ABB. So just putting in the benefits of ABB and the drawbacks of incremental are not going to get you marks. Probably there are one or two elements of incremental which are actually beneficial for the company. That is why they're using it. And there are one or two elements in ABB which could be a hardship to the company, right? So therefore, giving a balanced view of the entire scenario and how it would impact the company would be skepticism, would be properly having, challenging and analyzing the entire scenario rather than giving a bias to you, okay?
To which it can be applied, explore where it might bring advantages or present problems, and conclude whether it is even useful at all. Skepticism means looking at matters with a critical eye, challenging items which may not be correct or do not seem to be appropriate. However, take care not to question everything in the exam just because this professional skill is being examined. Challenge where you see comments or details in the question scenario which do not seem logical.
So all the places where you think that there is a person
or that are implausible given other information or your general business knowledge. Also, challenge anything that appears to go against professional behaviour or ethics or looks to be illegal or against the public interest. Remember, when you do offer a challenge, you should do so in a professional manner. Watch the rest of the videos in this series.
So this is about this is about skepticism, right? Now, as you can see, skepticism is more applied for a paper like AAA, whereas analysis and evaluation would be more applied for a paper like AF, correct? Now, I'm giving you a specimen of APM, as I told you, but these skills would be applied majorly in their specific papers. Now, it is analysis and evaluation. So what is analysis and evaluation? So let's say you've been given some data and you need to draw proper conclusions, or you have been given a budget or a model and you have to evaluate. So you have to tell the pros and cons, the benefits and drawbacks. All of this would be in analysis and evaluation.
The ability to analyse and evaluate an issue is a key professional skill for management accountants, and as such, it will be tested in every question in
So
every
they have put
APM
in
exam.
hint that
Analysis
more
and
likely it is that it will be tested in every question. So generally in 25 markers too. Okay, if there is a specific question where it won't be applicable at all, it wouldn't be tested. But generally, all questions would have 25 markers. Generally, they're saying 50 markers anyway. It is mandatory. Okay.
Evaluation mean that you have to logically investigate and process information to respond to a request from management or meet a stated objective for the organisation. Many APM questions will ask you to evaluate a matter for the senior management of the organisation. Remember, an evaluation usually requires you to offer a balanced argument, so you are expected to provide advantages and disadvantages.
Skepticism is a roadmap for analysis and evaluation, right? By skepticism, you're challenging the current system and trying to give an improvement. And when you do so, you're giving a balanced viewpoint. So telling that by improving something or by changing the system, it could bring in positives as well as negatives, right? So that is your say on skepticism and evaluation would go hand in hand.
Or benefits and problems in your answer. Your evaluation could be supplemented if required by justified alternative courses of action which the organisation could consider. An evaluation also normally requires an overall conclusion, so be sure to include this. To arrive at what would be considered a thorough evaluation, analysis of the matter also has to take place, which is why the two are combined in APM. You must consider which data in the question is relevant to your answer, as knowing what information is needed for each requirement is a key part of the skill process. When you are producing an evaluation, you need to break down what you've been asked to do into its component parts. If you do this, then your response should follow the priority of the requests you've been asked to report on. So by default, this prioritization will ensure that you only provide what is relevant to the answer, nothing additional or irrelevant. Any calculations you perform should be used to support your evaluation or conclusions. You need to demonstrate that you can determine which calculations are required. Don't include any calculations that you cannot see a use for. Narrative data should also have this skill applied to it. Note that any appraisal of the data, written or numeric, must use all of the relevant information in a balanced way. You cannot simply choose the parts which support your or the management's ideas and ignore those which contradict them. Analysis and evaluation of the data can also identify where information is missing or where further analysis is not possible due to lack of data. This lack of data may lead to poor recommendations, and this must be noted
everywhere. And this is an evaluation can be used. If some data is already missing, not included as a part of your report, this is also your skill to apply that which data needs to be dug in further and provided by the management, right?
What is absolutely vital is that any judgments made based on your evaluations need to be clearly explained and linked to the relevant organisational issue. These are the fundamental skills used by working management accountants. To perform the role of a management accountant well, in addition to passing the APM exam, these skills must be well developed.
Right.
Watch
now
the rest of the video.
Our last video out of the skills. So we've covered communication, we've covered analysis, we've covered skepticism. Now the last part is commercial. Now, communication and commercial acumen are places which are more closely known by students, because commercial acumen is where you apply the part of the scenario in the answer given. So as I mentioned before as well, it's very key to understand which parts of the question you need to mention. Just mugging up and writing a Porter's forces or any model which you already know, let's say as zero-based budgeting, would not fetch you marks. Giving it and applying it to the scenario, driving from the CSF given, driving from the management's point of view, the limitations of the company, the external factors affecting the company, would be business awareness, would be having a holistic view on the business, right? Let's see in further.
The management accountant's role is to advise and support business
So
decision-making.
you are basically the people who directly report to the CEO and CFO of the company. So you have to advise them on what sounds correct or what decisions aid in decision making, right? So therefore, you need to have a complete knowledge of internal and external factors.
Business decision making. In providing this advice, they have to consider what is going on in the external environment, as well as having an awareness of the internal business situation and the organisational objectives. This is the skill of commercial acumen, meaning that you have to be able to offer practical and commercially sound advice to management. Commercial acumen requires you to demonstrate a combination of business awareness, effective judgment of the correct approach to take, and insight into what this might mean. A very important part
is you need to be aware of the general environment, very important, of the oil price fluctuations. And you need to have reading about political scenarios, how the share market affects business. Not because obviously real life scenarios will be asked exactly, but because you will have a thinking of how it will affect the company. Another important thing is you do not need to copy data as it is. As an expert in that matter, as an ACCA qualified, you will have executive positions. So your own insight and judgment, your own opinion on the subject would be of crucial importance, because that is one of the very important reason you're hired for.
For the business. Any recommendations which you are asked to make in the APM exam must be practical. They must be applicable to the organisation's situation, given the facts in the question scenario, and they must be plausible. They must also be able to be implemented and achieve the aims they are supposed to.
They should be realistic practical and relevant to the goal.
And plausible recommendations or advice means that you have considered both internal and external factors impacting the organisation, recognise the consequences of any decision being proposed, or the effect of past decisions on future proposals. Think about an organisation which is defined as having a small product range, basic information systems and limited cash flow, and a director has proposed introducing value-based management. Would introducing value-based management be appropriate for this organisation? When you provide a recommendation, make sure that it is valid, i.e. it will have the effect you predict and is viable. That is it actually possible to implement this solution in the organisation given its current situation? You should always support your recommendations or advice by using examples from the question scenario and from your wider business awareness.
Of the question, plus your general reading, general awareness and knowledge would be tested.
If you are worried that you may not have this skill, as you are studying full-time or are new to employment, then you can develop it via question practice, reading the business press, listening to business-related podcasts and watching business programs. It's good practice to always consider why organisations take the decisions that they do and what the outcomes and consequences of those decisions could be, because this is exactly what you need to think in the APM exam. Watch the rest of the videos in the series.
So that is a detailed discussion about how it would affect how the individual skill marks are going to be assessed. Okay. Now the last part of our discussion today is that I'm going to show you a specimen paper. As I said, we are going to have only one paper which we're going to discuss, and the rest you can ask your individual professors. Okay, so this is a paper which is of APM. The first question, as you know, is for 50 marks. So you have been asked the CSF and the KPIs for deal and police, value for money provided, and league tables. Okay, let me just show you how the answer is going to include the skill marks. So you've been given an answer of CSF KPI, right? You have an answer for value for money. The answer, the technical marks will be as you're writing in the question, correct? And the third is the league table. Now, see, in the 50 marks, they have told you communication. So what all is in communication? The style, the clarity, the effectiveness of your communication, how you've given the report, analysis and evaluation, proper data to have discussion and draw conclusions on the value for money. Further analysis should be considered to do a full evaluation, balanced analysis of the appraisal, and give recommendations on the league tables, give reasoned judgment. If you are going to give a judgment, you have to give reasons why, and the key organization methods. In skepticism, demonstration of the ability to probe into why the CSF were defined, recognition of the data does not allow some of the CSF to be adequately measured. So some CSF still need KPIs to be elaborated, and why exactly are we refining the CSF? Skepticism on that, challenging that. Commercial acumen is where you are going to play out scenarios, information, and have practical considerations. Okay, so that is how your 50 marks are going to have the first skills. Now you have the next question on GIT, and there's another question for 25 marks. So let me just show you the questions. After the first question, you have the question on GIT and the cost of quality, right? So here, what all skills? Introduction of GIT and cost of quality. So as you know, communication is not done. So what exactly? So since you have some calculation, obviously analysis and evaluation is going to come a part of it, right? So balanced and reasoned assessment of the changes to production and purchase. What all will affect GIT? That you have to do an analysis. Appropriate use of data to support the discussion on quality cost. Okay, so therefore you have to analyze the data on the cost of quality impact. Skepticism, effective challenge of the assumptions of both the production manager and the CEO. So whatever analysis and recommendations they have put in, the manager and CEO, you have to skeptically analyze them. Keep a questioning mind and analyze it. And commercial acumen, again, draw the information from the scenario, apply the external factors, and make it more real life and realistic, right? So yahan pe all three skills are used. Some questions may have one or two skills only. As I said, depends on the question, your PPP and a plan study text. Both have at the back of the answers, the suggested skills which are required for each question. For 50 markers, once again, all the 4 skills are used, right? Okay, great. So I think that's the end of our discussion. I apologize for the few disturbances due to rains. There is some issue with the connection, but I hope that you've been able to hear and understand everything clearly. I think we can open up for question and answers. I think you can put in your questions in the chat box if you have any other questions apart from the data. If you have any recommendations, any feedback about the session, please feel free to do that too. We're going to keep the chat box open for the next 10 minutes. If there are more questions, we can definitely extend it. So please feel free to ask anything that you have not understood, not clear. As I said, this is just an introduction. You will have a lot of information given by your individual faculties, and please make sure that they include this while discussing questions. Please put in your questions. No, because we have revised modules for AFM and AAA. And more importantly, even if there have been, see, first of all, for the changes in the content, the technical content, you need to discuss with your specific professor. But clearly the marking system has changed a lot. So therefore, the approach of writing answers, the content would be very different from the previous modules. So I would recommend you to buy new for the September and coming time. Does that answer your question? Any further? Welcome. If you don't have any questions, we can close the session. So another 5 minutes and we can close if you don't have any questions. So please feel free to ask any doubt that you have. We're going to wait for another 5 minutes and we're going to close the session. So you can put your questions in the chat box directly. If you do not have any question, you can leave the session. I thank you all for coming. I repeat, if you do not have any questions, you can leave the session.